The train doors shut right in front of me. I froze, staring at my reflection in the glass as it pulled away. My heart sank. I was supposed to be on that train to make it to my first day at the new library branch. Great, I muttered, clutching my coffee cup like it could somehow save me. Then I heard a voice. Calm, amused. Missed it too. I turned. A man, maybe mid-50s, grey at the temples, holding a briefcase and the same defeated look I probably had. But his eyes steady, kind, made me pause. Apparently yes, I said. And I even ran. Haven't done that in years. He chuckled softly. Well, we can both blame the universe. We ended up standing side by side under the flickering sign that said next train in 30 minutes. I sighed. He sipped his coffee. Silence settled, comfortable in a strange way. You work downtown? He asked after a moment. Yes, new job, librarian. He smiled. Books, that explains the calm. Calm? You seem like someone who finds peace in quiet things. I laughed quietly. And you seem like someone who doesn't miss much. He tilted his head. Maybe not today. We exchanged names, Ethan and Lavra. Just names, no expectations. But something in the way he said mine felt familiar, like an old song I couldn't place. When the next train arrived, we got on together. Sat across from each other. Talked about small things, coffee, music, the strange way time feels slower after 50. He told me about his daughter in Chicago and how his house felt too big these days. I told him about my late husband, gone 7 years now, and how the silence never left. He didn't pity me. He just nodded, like he understood. Halfway through the ride, I noticed a ring on his finger. My heart sank a little. Oh, I said without meaning to. He looked down and smiled gently. It's just memory now. I met his eyes. I'm sorry. Don't be, he said softly. Life goes on. Sometimes slower, sometimes not at all. We arrived at Central Station. He offered to carry my bag. I refused, politely. We walked out together into the busy morning. Maybe we'll miss the same train again someday, he said, smiling. Maybe, I said, smiling back. I turned to leave, then something made me stop. Wait, your last name? He hesitated. Brooks. Ethan Brooks. The name hit me like a jolt. Brooks, I stared at him. Did you ever teach at Riverdale High? He frowned, surprised. I did. Years ago. My stomach turned. You taught my son, Daniel Miller. He always talked about his favorite teacher, Mr. Brooks. He blinked, stunned. Daniel Miller? Yes, I said quietly. He passed away in college. For a moment, the noise of the city vanished. He looked at me like time had stopped. I'm so sorry, he whispered. He was one of the brightest kids I ever taught. Tears stung my eyes, but I forced a smile. He would have loved knowing we met like this. We stood there, two strangers bound by someone long gone. I remember, he said softly. He used to draw little sketches of trains in the margins of his notebooks. I felt a chill run through me. He did, every page. The sound of another train echoed through the station. Ethan looked away, then back at me. Maybe, he said quietly. We weren't supposed to miss that train after all. I nodded, unable to speak. Then his phone rang. He stepped aside to answer. I caught fragments. Yes, doctor. Today's appointment. I'll be there. When he turned back, his smile had faded just a little. Everything okay? I asked. He hesitated, then forced a nod. Yeah, just routine stuff. But something in his eyes told me it wasn't. The next train arrived. We stepped on together, sitting side by side this time. Silent. When my stop came, I stood up. He smiled softly. Until next time, Lavra. Until next time, Ethan. As I walked away, I turned once more and saw him through the window, staring down at a folded piece of paper in his hand. He looked lost in thought, almost afraid. And then I saw the paper had my son's name written on it. Daniel Miller. My breath caught. Why did he have that? The train pulled away, and he was gone. But I knew, in that instant, our missed train hadn't been an accident. Something had brought us together. Something connected to my son. And I wasn't sure if I was ready to find out what it was. I couldn't get his face out of my mind. Ethan Brooks. My son's old teacher. The man who somehow carried a paper with Daniel's name on it. That night, I sat at my kitchen table. The letter he'd once written me spread out before me. Daniel's last letter. His handwriting still young and sure. Mom, my history teacher says life isn't about answers. It's about the stories we leave behind. That teacher had been Ethan. The next morning, I walked into the library distracted. Words blurred on the computer screen. Every sound felt too sharp. At lunch, I pulled out my phone and searched his name. Ethan Brooks. Riverdale High, retired 2019. There was a photo. Younger. Smiling. That same calm I'd seen on the train platform. My heart tightened. How do you ask someone why they're holding your son's name in their hands? The next week, we met again. Same platform, same quiet smile. I didn't think I'd see you, he said. I wasn't sure if I wanted to, I replied. Half-honest. He seemed to understand. Coffee? At the cafe, I finally asked. Why did you have my son's name written down? He didn't answer right away. Just stirred his coffee, watching the cream swirl like thoughts he wasn't ready to share. Then he reached into his briefcase and pulled out a small notebook, old and worn. This belonged to him, he said. I froze. Daniel's? He nodded. He gave it to me the week before graduation. Said he wanted to thank me for believing in him. I opened it carefully. The pages were filled with sketches of trains, just like Ethan said, and notes. Notes about people, dreams, quotes. And one name appeared again and again. Mr. Brooks. Tears blurred the ink. He looked up to you, I whispered. Ethan's eyes softened. He reminded me of myself at that age. Always curious. Always sketching the world as it was and as it could be. We sat there for a long while. Then he said something that made my heart pause. After he passed, I couldn't throw the notebook away. I kept it. It made me feel like he was still around. Like maybe I hadn't failed him. Failed him? I asked. He looked down. He came to me a few weeks before he left. Said he felt lost. I told him things would make sense with time. I thought words were enough. His voice broke slightly. I should have done more. I shook my head. No one could have known. He smiled sadly. Maybe. But I promised myself I'd find his mother one day, to tell her he changed my life too. And now, years later, there we were. Two people bound by the same name. The same ache. Days turned into weeks. We met often after that. Not by accident anymore. We talked about everything: books, life, and the strange way grief and hope sometimes share the same space. Once, while shelving books together at the library, he said softly, You know, Lavra, I think Daniel brought us here. I smiled. He always loved bringing people together. And for the first time in a long time, I laughed, really laughed. It felt like sunlight after a storm. But as close as we grew, something still held him back. Sometimes I'd catch him staring at nothing lost. Sometimes he'd change the subject when I mentioned the future. One evening, walking by the river, I asked, What are you afraid of, Ethan? He hesitated. Time. Time? He nodded. I'm afraid there's not enough left of it. I didn't understand then. I just smiled and slipped my hand into his dot. Then one morning, he didn't show up. No message. No call. I waited. One day. Then two. Then a week. When I finally went to the station, the attendant handed me an envelope. "Someone left this for you," she said. Inside was a single note in his handwriting. "Lara, sometimes the past isn't finished with us. I need to put something right before I can begin again." My heart sank. Days passed into months. Silence stretched thin and cold. I tried to move on, but the memory of his calm voice lingered. The warmth of our talks. The notebook he'd given back to me. Every night, I found myself reading Daniel's words again. Life isn't about answers. It's about stories. Then one evening at the library, while unpacking donated books, a small package fell out. No sender's name. Inside was another notebook, old, bound with a red string. The first page said, "For Daniel, from Mr. Brooks." My hands trembled as I opened it. Inside were lessons, stories, and sketches, their conversations. Ethan's handwriting next to Daniel's. Pages filled with hope, unfinished thoughts, and questions answered in different inks. Near the end, I found a date, circled. The day my son passed. Next to it, Ethan had written, "If I could trade one more day for one more talk, I would." Tears blurred the ink. But below that line, something else caught my eye. A note written later, maybe recently. "If you're reading this, Lara, it means I finally did what I promised. But there's something you don't know. Something Daniel wanted you to hear from me." I froze. That last line wasn't finished. The ink trailed off mid-sentence. And suddenly, I knew part of Ethan's silence wasn't about guilt. It was about a truth he hadn't yet told. A truth still waiting for me to find. I didn't expect to see him again. Not after 2 years. Not after the silence. It was an ordinary Tuesday. I was walking out of the library, rain starting to fall, when I heard someone say my name. Softly, carefully. "Lara." I froze. The voice came from behind me. Familiar, steady, unforgettable. I turned. Ethan stood under a black umbrella. Older, thinner, but still with that calm in his eyes. The sight of him hit me like a memory I'd tried to bury and failed. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Just rain, falling between us. "You disappeared," I said finally. My voice was sharper than I meant. He nodded. "I know. You left without a word. I left a note." "That's not the same thing, Ethan." He looked down, then back up. "You're right." The rain grew heavier. He moved closer, holding the umbrella so it covered us both. I should have stepped back. I didn't know how to explain," he said quietly. "And I didn't want to hurt you more." "Hurt me?" I asked. "You were my friend." I stopped. The word wouldn't come. He looked at me gently. "You were mine too." We stood there in the rain, strangers again. We ended up at the cafe across the street, our old spot. The window fogged as we sat in silence. "I read your note," I said. "And a second notebook. The one you sent." He exhaled. "Then you know I was trying to make peace with Daniel." I nodded. "But you never told me what you wanted me to hear." He looked at me then. Really looked. "Because I wasn't sure you'd want to hear it from me." "Try me." He hesitated, then reached into his coat pocket. From it, he pulled a folded sheet of paper, yellowed at the edges. "I kept this for years. It's a page from the notebook, the one he never showed you." My hands trembled as I took it. Daniel's handwriting filled the page. "Mr. Brooks says everyone carries a light inside them. I think my mom doesn't see hers anymore. If I can't stay long, I hope someone helps her find it again. My breath caught. He wrote this. Ethan nodded. He wanted me to promise I'd find you one day and remind you that you still shine. I pressed the paper to my chest, eyes burning. And you did, I whispered. I tried, he said softly. Then when I finally met you, I didn't know how to tell you that the reason there wasn't chance. It was him. I looked at him through tears. All this time, I thought it was fate. He smiled faintly. Maybe it was. Maybe Daniel just gave fate a little push. We both laughed quietly, the kind of laugh that comes after too many swallowed tears. But the quiet didn't last. I could feel something else in his silence. Something he wasn't saying. What happened after you left? I asked. Where did you go? He looked out the window, eyes following the rain. Chicago. My daughter. She wanted me there, and I needed some tests done. Tests? He smiled gently. Don't look like that. It's not dramatic. Just age catching up. Ethan. He stopped me. I'm fine now. Truly, I just didn't want you to worry. I studied his face. The faint tiredness. The lines around his eyes. But there was peace there too. You should have told me, I said softly. I didn't know if I had the right to, he replied. We hadn't even figured out what we were to each other. The truth of that sat between us. We'd never named it. Whatever we had. Friendship, maybe. Love? Maybe not yet. Something real, definitely. He reached across the table then, his hand brushing mine. I missed our talks, he said. Me too. And the trains. I smiled. Still missing them? Always. The cafe emptied slowly around us. Outside, the rain stopped, leaving the world washed and quiet. He leaned back, studying me the way he used to. Curious, careful. You still talk to your plants? Every morning. Do they answer? Sometimes, I said. When I listen. He laughed softly, and it was like the years had folded back into a single moment. Then his tone changed. Laura, there's something else I never told you. I waited. The day I met you at the station, he said slowly. I wasn't there by accident. I was coming to return something. Daniel's letter, I just couldn't. My heart skipped. Because of me. He nodded. Because I saw you sitting there, reading a book, smiling to yourself. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel like I'd failed him. Tears filled my eyes. You didn't fail him, Ethan. He reached into his pocket again, pulling out a small envelope. Then maybe it's time you have this. He slid it across the table. My name was written in Daniel's handwriting. I froze. You've had this all along? He nodded, eyes gentle but unreadable. He gave it to me the day before he left. Asked me to give it to you when I thought you were ready. I stared at the envelope. My hands shook as I touched it. I don't know if I am ready. Neither do I, he said. But I think he knew you'd open it when you had someone beside you who cared enough to stay. I looked up. His eyes met mine. Steady, hopeful, waiting. For the first time, I realized what had been there all along. This wasn't just about my son. It was about us. The past had brought us together. That now, love, quiet, unexpected love, was asking for a chance to begin. I looked at the letter, then at him. And in that suspended heartbeat, between opening it or not, I whispered, "Stay with me, Ethan. Just stay." I didn't open the letter that night. It sat on my kitchen table, untouched, lit by a single lamp. My name on the envelope. My son's handwriting. I kept walking past it, afraid of what it might say, or not say. The next morning, Ethan called. "Coffee?" he asked. "Not today," I whispered. "Can we talk instead?" He heard something in my voice. Where? By the river. Our bench. The sky was grey, calm. The kind of quiet before rain. He was already there when I arrived. Hands in his pockets. That same old umbrella by his side. I sat down beside him. The letter was in my hand. I read it, I said softly. He looked at me surprised. You did? I nodded. Last night. A pause. Wind brushed through the trees. What did it say? He asked. I stared at the water, at the way it carried light and shadow all at once. It said he came to you before he died, that he told you something about me, about Dad, about the truth. Ethan's face changed. Not fear, sorrow. Yes, he said quietly. He did. I turned to him. You knew. All this time. He didn't answer. Ethan, I said, my voice trembling but low. You knew my husband wasn't who I thought he was, didn't you? He nodded slowly. Daniel came to me after class one day. He was upset. Said he'd found letters from someone his father was seeing. He didn't know what to do. He didn't want to hurt you. My chest tightened. He told you this. He trusted me, Ethan said softly. He needed to talk to someone. I listened. That's all. I closed my eyes. And you didn't tell me. His silence was answer enough. When I opened my eyes again, there were tears in his. I wanted to. But after Daniel passed, it didn't feel like my truth to tell anymore. I thought I'd only bring you more pain. The wind picked up. The first drops of rain fell. You kept it from me, I whispered. You let me think my family was whole. I let you heal, he said. I thought you had already suffered enough. I laughed softly, a broken sound. And you think knowing this now helps? He shook his head. No, but it's time. For a while, neither of us spoke. Only rain between us. Then I said quietly, so that's why you disappeared. He nodded. When I realized you didn't know, I couldn't face you. Not until I was sure I could tell you without breaking you again. I took a deep breath, steadying myself. You thought I couldn't handle the truth. I thought I couldn't handle hurting you. His words hit hard because they were honest. Not cruel, not defensive. Just raw. We sat like that. The rain soft. The silence heavier than thunder. Then he said something that made me look up. I loved your son like my own, Lavra. And I think he wanted me to take care of you when he couldn't. My eyes filled again. And did you? He smiled faintly. I tried. But somewhere along the way, I think I started loving you for me. The world seemed to still. The truth of everything. Daniel's secret, my husband's betrayal, Ethan's silence. It all swirled into one quiet ache. I don't know what to do with this, I said, almost to myself. Then don't do anything yet, he said softly. Just breathe. He stood up then, hands trembling slightly. I wasn't sure you'd forgive me, he said. I looked up at him. I'm not sure I can. He nodded, accepting it. He turned to leave, but I stopped him. Ethan, he faced me. You said Daniel gave you that letter for me when I was ready. How did you know I was ready? He hesitated, his voice low. Because last time I saw you, you weren't carrying grief anymore. You were carrying hope. I stared at him, heart twisting. And now? He smiled sadly. Now you're carrying truth. That's harder. But it's real. He started walking away, the umbrella shielding him from the rain. I sat there long after he disappeared down the path, holding the letter close, reading Daniel's last line over and over. Mom, if someone ever tells you I was lost, don't believe them. I found peace when I knew you'd be okay. And I trust the person who'll make sure of that. I closed my eyes, the rain washing over my face, And then I realized something. There had been more than one note in the envelope. At the very back was a smaller piece of paper. Written not by Daniel, but by Ethan. A single line. If you ever forgive me, I'll be at the station one last time. I looked up, heart racing. The train station. Our train. Tomorrow. Morning came quietly. No rain, no thunder. Just sunlight. Soft, almost unsure, like it was learning how to touch the world again. I stood by the window, the unopened second letter on the table beside my tea. The one Ethan had left, he'd written, "If you ever forgive me, I'll be at the station one last time." I didn't sleep much. I just kept thinking about Daniel, about the years lost to silence, about how forgiveness doesn't erase pain. It only gives it somewhere to rest. By noon, I knew what I had to do. The train station looked exactly the same as it had years ago. Old clock, rusted benches, the sound of wheels on rails. Ethan was there. Same brown coat, same calm posture. But this time, he looked like a man who'd stopped running. When he saw me, he didn't smile right away. He simply nodded like he'd been expecting me, but hadn't dared hope. "I didn't think you'd come," he said. "I almost didn't," I replied. But then I remembered something Daniel wrote. He tilted his head. "What's that?" "That he trusted the person who'd make sure I'd be okay." I looked at him. "I think he meant you." Ethan's eyes softened. He said nothing, just took off his hat, holding it in his hands like a confession. "I thought knowing the truth would destroy everything we had," he said quietly. "But I was wrong. It's what finally made it real." I took a deep breath. "You broke my heart by staying silent." He nodded. "I know. And yet," I added, "you held my pain when I couldn't even name it. That counts for something." He looked at me surprised. "Does that mean?" "It means I forgive you, Ethan. Not because you earned it, but because Daniel would have wanted me to." For a moment, his eyes glistened. Then he exhaled, like he'd been holding that breath for years. The train whistle sounded. Distant, low, aching. He looked toward the platform. "I was planning to leave," he said. "A new post, another town. But I'll stay if you ask me to." I shook my head. "No. You should go." His face fell slightly. I smiled gently. "But I might visit." He laughed softly, a sound full of both heartbreak and hope. "That sounds like something you'd say." We walked together toward the platform. Steps slow, words unnecessary. Before the train arrived, he reached into his coat and handed me something small, a folded piece of paper. "I found this after Daniel's funeral," he said. "It's yours." I hesitated. "Another letter?" He nodded. "It was in the book he borrowed from me. I think he wanted you to have it when you were ready." He boarded the train, leaving me standing there, holding the note. As the train began to move, he looked out the window, raised his hand once. Not to wave goodbye, but to promise something quieter. I raised mine too. I didn't open the letter until I got home. It was short. Written in Daniel's quick, messy handwriting. "Mom, if life ever feels heavy again, look for the person who helps you breathe easier. Don't think about what people will say. Just live. You've earned that." At the bottom, a small drawing, a train. And underneath it, in tiny letters, "Maybe you'll meet him there." I smiled through tears. I placed Daniel's note beside Ethan's on the table. Both letters side by side, one from a son who wanted me to heal, one from a man who waited quietly for me to choose peace. That night, I sat by the window again. The clock ticked softly, and for the first time in years, my home didn't feel empty. A week later, a small package arrived in the mail. No return address, just my name. Inside was a postcard, a photo of a quiet coastal town. Blue skies over an old station. On the back, in Ethan's handwriting, "The sea's calm here. Bring your book next time." I held it close, smiling. Maybe we weren't meant to start over. Maybe we were just meant to find peace at last, in the space between loss and love. The sun dipped low outside, painting the sky gold. I set the postcard on the table beside Daniel's letters. 3 lives. 3 stories, all tied together by forgiveness. I whispered to the air, "Thank you, my loves." Then I closed the window, poured myself another cup of tea, and watched the light fade. Peaceful, quiet, whole. Because sometimes love doesn't ask for forever. It just asks for one more sunrise.